Former AEW World Champion Kenny Omega returned at one of the recent New Japan shows, and then he got into a backstage scuffle with Gabe Kidd, which would seem to be the direction for Wrestle Dynasty at the Tokyo Dome on January 5th. If Kenny is able to make it back to the ring by then, he has not wrestled a match since December 5th against Ethan Page on Collision. Ethan Page has since left the company and has been NXT champion. That's how long it's been. It's been a lifetime since we've seen Omega in the ring. He went under the knife for diverticulitis after it almost killed him. And then he returned in May on an episode of Dynamite where he was viciously attacked by the Elite and he was left for dead. So you would think that when he was ready to come back, it would be to the company that pays him millions of dollars and has a ready-made story waiting for him with the Elite. But the Young Bucks, they're on hiatus for the time being. They dropped their tag team titles to Private Party. They're not going to be back until Wrestle Dynasty, actually. They're going to be making their return at the Tokyo Dome. You've got Jack Perry, and then you've got the obvious eventual match with Kazuchika Okada. You would think so, that this is what Kenny would be coming back to, but you would be wrong. Kenny Omega is going to be making his return first to New Japan Pro Wrestling. He told Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, "I owe New Japan a giant thank you for giving him his big break in his career, and I do feel there's a debt that I have to repay in some way, shape, form, or fashion. If by performing at the Tokyo Dome, making my comeback at the Dome, it's a way to help repay that and help do something for their business, then I am more than happy to do that." And when he was asked why not return to AEW first, he said that it was a tough answer and that there's nothing wrong there, but he chalked it up to everything flowing like clockwork right now in AEW. And he didn't want to be that guy who shows up and takes a spot away from somebody else. He said, "There's nothing wrong with AEW at all. If you watch any of the episodes of our TV recently, everything is flowing like clockwork right now. I feel like there's a spot for all of the hardworking men and women that are on those shows. They've all worked incredibly hard to earn their spots and keep those spots. I feel like if I just kind of showed up and said, 'Hey guys, I'm back, so one of you are going to have to, I just don't want to be that guy. So I feel like when there's an opportunity, when there's a chance, sure, I'd love to be back if you guys could have me. But right now I feel like AEW has got a good thing going. I don't think they need me, so I'll make my return for New Japan instead for now.'" Wow. I can understand him feeling that he owes New Japan some debt of gratitude and wanting to pay it forward and do them a solid by appearing at the Dome, right? New Japan's business has not exactly been great either, so I can understand him wanting to do them a solid. But this idea that everything is firing on all cylinders right now in AEW and they don't need him right now is one of the most asinine things that I have heard in a very long time. To say that there is nothing wrong with AEW at all, that was his exact quote. There is nothing wrong with AEW at all. It's just not based in reality. You may think that AEW gets unfair criticism, and they do. You may think that AEW has a lot of good things going right now. And they do. They have some good things going right now. But to say that there is nothing wrong at all with AEW, it's like he's living in Candyland. Does he not watch the show? Does he not see these dark, half-empty buildings? The Dynamite after Full Gear, they're in Chicago. They're going to be at the Wintrust Arena. Chicago has been their friendliest market since the company started running shows. The Wintrust Arena is a 10,000-seat building. They just ran there in July. They filled it up halfway. As of this morning, they only have 2,000 tickets sold for that show. That's in Chicago. I mean, outside of Jacksonville, it's practically home base for this company. I don't think that Kenny Omega has been an EVP for a while now, but as somebody who has been more than just a talent for this company, as someone who has had other roles behind the scenes, how can he sit there with a straight face and say that there is nothing wrong with AEW at all? I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't things to like about AEW. Look, I liked the show on Wednesday. I feel like I was in the minority on that. I thought that there was more to like than not like about that show. But that has not been the case a lot recently. The product is cold. And I say that as somebody who's been watching since day one. The product is ice cold. AEW needs him now more than ever. The idea of him returning to the Tokyo Dome for a match before he comes back to AEW, yes, that's weird. That isn't even the big deal that some people are making it out to be. There's some people ranting and raving about that. I don't necessarily even care about that per se. But the idea that AEW has no problems and everything is fine and they don't need Kenny Omega, that's the problem. That mentality is the problem. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing to see here. It's the Officer Bar Brady thing from South Park. Everything's fine. There's no problems. Kenny Omega needs to be part of the solution. He does not need to be part of the problem. And when you say stuff like that, you are part of the problem. It's very noble of him to say that he doesn't want to take a spot away from someone else on TV, but that's not a good enough reason for Kenny Omega to take himself out of the game if he is healthy enough to come back. After the Tokyo Dome, he needs to be back on AEW television. They've got a stadium show, right, that they're doing in February in Australia. They got some big shows coming up next year. He needs to be back on AEW television. He is one of the three biggest stars in the entire company, if not the biggest. And if bringing back Omega means a little bit less of the learning tree or the beast Mortos, I don't think people are going to be too broken up about that.